Hey everyone, welcome to the DevLog for my game Bound by Broadcast. This week I will be implementing the Octopus Chef.
For those of you who don't know, my game takes place inside a television, inside a cartoon episode, and each episode centers around a giant creature that you need to help. And in the first level, the level on the beach, it's Octopus Chef. And the design went through a few stages, and currently you're looking at the final design.
And it's made up out of a few sections. There's the main body that basically swerves back and forth. Then there are 4 tentacles that are purely decorative, the salt and pepper shakers, the one scratching the top of the head, and then the one working the fire bellows. And then there are 4 tentacles that actually do something. The first one blocks the path upwards, the second one blocks the path to the left, and finally there is the board and the cleaver that actually help you to cut up the quest items so that you can add them to the broth, to the cauldron. This entire week will mainly be spent on trying to implement this design into the game. There will be a lot of animating, and if everything works out fine, I can also get to the implementation of blocking the road, chopping the vegetables and all that stuff. A lot to do, so let's get to it. I will be starting with the body because I only have to animate it, and the way I do this is by grabbing that part from the design, putting it in its own Illustrator file and cutting up all the layers, putting everything that I want to animate separately on its own layer, because this is what I will be using in After Effects when we actually start to make things move.
A little extra insight on the animation. Before I get started on the computer, I sit down and I try to act out the movement that I'm going to make, just to get a feel for what I want to achieve. And in this case, we're animating the body of the octopus. And I wanted to feel like this octopus being mesmerized, being hypnotized. So then I actually start to have an idea of what's going up, what's going down, how do I make this movement. And once I have a good feel for it, that's actually when I start working on the computer. And even if you could see me do the animation, even during the actual animating, I'm sometimes still just trying to figure out how that movement is gonna be, or what I'm trying to get. And I thought this was just a little cool insight to show you as well. So let's get to animating.
And with that I dive into After Effects. First I make the big movements, so in this case the movement of the entire body of the head. And afterwards I start animating the details, in this case the eyes. And once I'm happy with the animation, I export it as a PNG sequence. I throw it into Texture Packer, export it as a sprite sheet, and then it's on to Unity.
In Unity, it always feels like we have to do 100 things. We have to add the sprite, we have to set the right pixels per unit, we have to set it to multiple, we have to go into the sprite editor, slice up the sprite, apply the sprite, make an animation out of it, make a game object, add an animator controller, and then we can add the animation and we end up here.
I think this is a little bit too much. It currently looks more like the octopus is trying to hypnotize us than that it's actually hypnotized itself. So later on I think I will tweak it, make the wobble, the back and forth a little bit less pronounced. But for now I think this is good, and I'm moving on to implementing the tentacles. The animation of the tentacles is going quite well. The implementation into Unity is, however, showing some ways in which my design wasn't really suitable, or where it didn't really work. For example, over here I want to block the path, but I want to communicate that clearly, and in the current setup that is not really the case. So what I did, I redesigned that tentacle, repositioned it a little bit, and I think this is already a lot better. And these are the kinds of things you run into when you start implementing your designs, and this is actually the fun but also a lot of the frustration of the game development process. You think of something in one way, and then once you're actually implementing it, you figure out that it has to be another way. But slowly I am making my way towards the first rough version. I think that will be done tomorrow on Thursday. So here we are at the end of Thursday, and I have the first rough version of the octopus finally done. There was a lot of animating and preparing those animations, and then also figuring out how all this is gonna come together. And so here we have the first rough version. There's still a lot of details I need to work out. Like there's a lot more gradients in here, and there should be outlines. But then also just actually the way this works. For example, this tentacle blocks your progress. Then over here in the back, you can chop up the vegetables once you have those, the quest items. I think this will work in the end, but it definitely still needs a lot of work. For the Friday, I just want to do a simple before and after. This is where I left off on Thursday, and this is what I turned it into. Let me give you the tour of the final result. As you can see, I've added the outlines to all the tentacles and the body. I've added some gradients to give the entire thing a little bit more depth. And then I also implemented the blocking over here. You will be able to remove that tentacle in a different section. Same goes for this tentacle. Once you have the hammer, you can hit that red sucker and then it moves out of the way. On top there's an extractor which eventually will suck you into the extractor and up towards the jellyfish fields. And here you can see the requests for the quest items. So in the end you will be able to pick up these quest items and then throw them on the board over here, and then the octopus will chop them up. And then you can grab these parts, and those parts you can add actually to the broth, to the cauldron over here, and that's how you resolve this episode. So yeah, this is the final result. A lot of progress made this week. I started with an empty kitchen, and now I have this awesome Octopus Chef. Very productive week, very happy with the end result, and on to the next week.